Good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started in 2 more minutes so more people can join us in. All right, everyone, let's get started with lecture number 7, brands existing in and belonging to greater culture. This is your second last lecture. So if you guys have any questions from any of the previous lectures, please make sure you clarify them in the next two class. Well, in this class and the next class, as these are your only opportunities. Before we get started, does anyone have any questions? All right. So today's class, we're going to be looking at creating iconic brands and how do we understand culture. Some of the examples that I will be using here for understanding how culture is used are going to be based on the American history. However, I'm sure with Bitis and Vina Milk, you will be able to find these applications in Vietnamese culture as well. With Vegemite, we can find it in Australian culture, and so on and so forth for every different culture. We can find these iconic brands, right? However, there are some brands like Apple that span across cultures and they are culturally relevant across the world, no matter what, where you are in the world, right? So that's what we are looking at. How does that happen? How do you become an iconic brand by using culture as your reference, by drawing in from the culture as well? And that is what brings us to meaning based brandings. Um, how do we use metaphors to convey meaning to our customers? Who are the meaning makers? And how brands acquire cultural meaning by identifying some cultural contradictions and looking at the myth market. So, hopefully, everybody remembers that there are two types of meaning that a brand can create in the consumer's mind. At the launch, there is no meaning whatsoever, right? This is the first lecture concept, right? This is what we covered in our first lecture. At the launch, there is no meaning. As the brand starts creating awareness, people get to know more about the brand, the familiarity with the brand increases, engagement with the brand increases. Primary brand meanings are conveyed to the customer. Now, these primary brand meanings are consumers' primary associations and dominant perceptions about a brand, followed by attributes and functional consequences, right? It's a snapshot that immediately comes to your mind upon hearing the brand name. Implicit, though, they take over as the time progresses because brands are essentially a combination of meanings that we are consuming in our lives. Each brand that we are consuming has some meanings for us, right? This is what we spoke about last week as well when we looked at identity based marketing. So, implicit brand meanings are ultimate emotional and psychological implications and significance of a brand to the psychic resonance that the brand has for its customers. Its complex is highly symbolic psychosocial meaning influenced in great measure by cultural norms and values. Now, if we look at Apple, considering both of those meanings, right? What are some primary meanings for Apple and what are implicit meaning for Apple? Anybody wants to give it a go? Anyone? What is the primary meaning behind Apple and what is the implicit meaning behind Apple? Come on, guys. I know you had to do that exercise of identifying the meanings behind brand elements of the top five successful companies or companies of your choice. So, yes, Lai, when you think about Apple, what comes to your mind? Come on, come on. Yeah, okay. So the word that you've used there is smartphone. So Apple, if you think about Apple and smartphone comes to your mind, then that is a primary brand meaning that Apple smartphone technology. Primary attributes, functional consequences helps you communicate with people around you. Is thou what you are saying is the idea of positioning, right? That is not just primary meaning, that is how you position yourself. You have to position yourself distinctly from your competitors to win the market. But how do you do that? The way you do that is by establishing meaning. Those meanings are then segmented under primary and implicit brand meaning. Now, primary meaning for Apple could be all those phones. Attributes could be functional attributes, helps you communicate, but you can also get a MacBook. The MacBook can be synced with your Apple device. So it sort of creates like this ecosystem. You could use their AirPods as well. Implicit is a little bit different. It's psychosocial, symbolic. What is the implicit meaning of using Apple? It is, yes, you're almost right that it is telling people to be different to others to win in life. But how? Why should they use Apple to be able to do that? How does Apple establish that meaning? That is implicit brand meaning. Anyone else wants to take a guess? Yeah, exactly. It what it does is it champions technological innovation, simplicity, and almost sort of a democratic process of where everyone could use personal computers back in the day when they started, right? It was not something that only very highly skilled people in IT could use. Everyone could use the computers. They think different. This Apple that you guys were thinking what it is associated is, it is associated with that Adam and Eve forbidden fruit. It is how it started. Um, this wave of technological innovation started. It started with Apple. That is what it champions. And this is why the way they have been able to position themselves as a company that really cares for people, is empathetic towards their need, it designs for them, is what has helped Apple become the iconic brand that it is across the world. This is why you see queues around outside Apple store, even though it is what Apple, I think iPhone 17. I think it's on the 17th iteration. Yet every year people would line up to get an Apple phone. Yeah, and also, of course, you're absolutely right now that it is also about not everyone can afford to get an iPhone. It is expensive. And there is an aspect of identity expression and status signaling with iPhone. So you're absolutely right. What I said was identity expression and status signaling. Yes, perfect, perfect. So, along those lines, what we are really looking at here is that for brands to become an icon, we have to move beyond, oh, my phone's got this much a GB memory, the camera is this good. We have to move beyond those functional meanings, and we have to really embed ourselves in the contextual reality of the customers, because we need to understand consumers are consuming meaning. They're not just consuming products. It is, what does it really mean for me? So the importance of contextual reality of consumers relationship with brand is not what excuse me guys, I got really sick. I got wet in the rain yesterday because Sydney has been very rainy. So I've gotten a bit sick. Give me one sec. If innovation could do one thing for me, how to get rid of a cold in one day, that would be so, so good. If you guys have any remedies, I would so appreciate them. How to get rid of this cold in one day. But back to contextual reality of consumers' relationship with that. It's not what companies do, it's how consumers are understanding of what companies are doing. To go into more, we are looking at concrete stories and images. Who's using them? When are they using them? What does it really mean? How is it borrowing from public culture? And as we go in our slides, you will realize that some of the bigger brands that you know, they build from the public culture a lot, from the social life. Why Coca Cola is so synonymous with togetherness and happiness is not because it's a great product. It is because they've understood that when people gather together, they want to have something to share. They ideally want to be happy, right? So, brands are powerful when they're accepted and used by a large population. There is a collective resonance. There is a reason why BTS is so successful. There is a collective resonance and it borrows hugely from the public culture and social life in Vietnam. So, brand's cultural resonance is always also historically specific. Because if you're borrowing from the public culture, it's not that you do it today and that's it. You have to be establishing yourself and embedding yourself in the public culture time and again. You have to continuously keep doing it. Because knowledge based branding is great. It's about quality, personal identity, my mind. What do I think about these brand? There is individual resonance, but more powerful is when there is collective resonance. Brands can be successful over time if they maintain consistency in brand associations and they are shared by collective people. So, let me share this little video from Bitis actually. It is 25 years or something of celebration, 25 years of celebration. And let's see if I can find it. Do, 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 do. Bitches, bitches, bitches. It was not 25 then. Do you guys remember that Bitches did this ad where it collaborated with a lot of creatives in Vietnam? And it was like a 16-second ad, I think. Bitches shoes. Does anyone remember that? There we go. It is this one. So what BTS did with this ad was they celebrated all the creatives in Vietnam. So every one of single one of them that they participated with got a snippet in this little video, and that is how they try to embed themselves in the public culture in Vietnam. So let me show you the ad, and you'll be able to understand what I really mean by that.
How long does it take to tell a story of 40 years? We did it in 1.6 seconds. Why 1.6 seconds? Because that's the attention span of our target audience. It's also the time it takes a physical step forward. For the 40th anniversary of BTS, Vietnam's most progressive footwear brand, we're told 40 different stories of progress, in 40 frames, 40 young and inspiring Vietnamese voices, 40 unfiltered perspectives, 40 unique creations, from sustainability to the spirit of unity, from LGBTQ plus advocacy to creative education, from tech economy to the Olympics, all connected together in one step forward for Vietnam. Blink and you'll miss it. Millions didn't, as they wanted more time on our website with the immersive content and behind the scenes material, more time at our multimedia exhibition, getting closer to the artists and their creations. People's response was overwhelming, spontaneous, amplified by more than 60 KOLs and 60 online communities. The campaign reached 3,000 exhibition attendances, more than 100 earned PR articles, 2 million organic social engagement, all despite zero media thanks to also 40 different posters, 40 unique animations, 40 artists' interviews, and one playful flipbook. The Step Forward has proved to be far more than just an advertising campaign. It's a celebration of national pride.
When you say words like it is a celebration of national pride, this is where we are talking about this meaning based branding, embedding yourself in public culture. And thank you for that, Dow, that it is to celebrate the 40th birthday of British company. That's why 40 artists, 40 shorts, and 1.6 seconds. Excellent example that I could find to explain what it really means to become an identity brand as opposed to just being a shoes brand, just where you can get your shoes. It's a lot more than that. It now has a culture share by collaborating with all those different creatives. It has obviously a cultural collective resonance as well because it is popular all across Vietnam. It is an iconic brand and it is historically specific as well. We'll also talk about what myth market means in identity branding, and we'll come to that when we look at Budweiser towards the end of this session. So I won't touch on it right now, but hopefully the difference between being a functional brand and identity brand is clearer. You could very well be a functional brand, but to really be grow and maintain your position, especially for brands that are built on that image aspect. It is great to borrow from the culture, but to borrow from the culture is not that easy, also, as you will see. You really need an understanding of the contradictions that exist in the market and how to provide like a sort of solution to those cultural contradictions, right? How to really understand what consumers' emotional psyche is and then create a relationship with that. It's not easy to build on that. However, it is a great way if your organization can to give you that longevity, but also become an integral part of the meanings that consumers are consuming in their everyday life. Does that make sense? If it does, have you guys heard of Supreme? And if you have heard of Supreme, what do you know about them? What do you know about the brand Supreme? Looking at the chat section now. Recently, yeah, recently they haven't been around so much. Um, but it is all about street style culture. So you want me to play that video, fam? Clothing brand, 100% a clothing brand. Street style, hip hop clothes, fashion. I love the word fashion as well because I think when a lot of people talk about Supreme, they generally say that Supreme is street culture, but how they have become overpriced, how they have really become successful is because their James Jebius is, I think, how you pronounce it, has such great partnership with these fashion organizations and companies and individuals that they've been able to do some really cool collaborations, especially in the 90s when collaborations were not that big, that it gave them the kind of status that they have achieved now. But it's also the fact that yes, they are. It's not about the fact that they're just overpriced, but every Thursday they would have a drop um, that alludes to scarcity, that also alludes to exclusivity. So every Thursday they have these drops which are limited in nature, and so you can only get those there. And they don't do production of those stocks again. So that it is limited in nature as well. So how we saw a little bit in Labubu I don't want to use economy, but how Labubu's marketing was done is very similar to that. That there's scarcity, there's exclusivity that is associated with limited time drops every Thursday. And it is only for people who really understand the brand. They don't want to be everything for everyone. If you're cool, if you like fashion, and if you like the sound of prestige that is associated with Supreme, you would purchase a Supreme. So there is huge on that identity signaling as well. Started as a skateboard brand where all these musicians and creative artists could come together, and it was a space for them to really chill and have fun, to the employees that they hired who were also very chill, very rebellious in nature, and like do not really care much about what others are thinking. So had they had this like sort of different attitude than, oh, we really care about the customer. They were very chill to the kind of clothes that they had. They were borrowed heavily from others' brand, but when they borrowed it, they did that much differently. Like even selling a brick to their logo that they have is borrowed from other brands. So it is hugely embedded in the public culture. And there's not one thing that, oh, let's just associate ourselves with the creators in the industry. It's not just one thing, it is building blocks towards establishing yourself. So much that you also know about Supreme. You don't need to know it, right? After so many years, it's not something that's just out there. They're marketing heavily. They're not marketing heavily. But the collaboration, the exclusive drops, the limited drops, but also reselling of their clothes in the second-hand market has given them the status that they have, along with signaling to consumer that you are cool, you understand Supreme, you understand this little secret that not everyone understands. Does that make sense? Hopefully that made sense. I'm always confused by silence, but that is where we are talking about that identity value. That customers are increasingly evaluating products in terms of what they can do and what they mean for them. If I'm wearing a Supreme t shirt and if I'm carrying an Apple iPhone and if I'm wearing a Nike hat, what does that really mean? What do people around me and what do I want around me think about me, but also what do I want to express about myself? So identity refers to that aspects of a brand that contribute to customer self-expression and personal identity. Brands that embody the ideal customers admire, brands that help customers express who they want to be. I'm coming back to that slide. If I'm a high achiever, I'm going to drive a Mercedes. If I'm on my way to the top, I am going to be getting a BMW. I'm going to be wearing Armani suits. Just like, I'll come back. Just like David Beckham, who's the champion, who is the GOAT. He wears a Rolex. If I am to on my way to becoming someone like David Beckham, or I want to embody those ideas, I would wear a Rolex as well. That is what we mean by identity value. That in lifestyle categories, especially, the name of the game is symbolism. The strategic focus is on what the brand stands for and the importance of the contextual reality of the customer. I want you to remember this because when we talk about that myth market, this contextual reality of your customer plays a very significant role into how your brand can become a meaning based brand, an identity brand. So, in lifestyle categories, the name of the game is symbolism. The strategic focus is on what the brand stands for and the importance of contextual reality of customers' relationship with the brand, not how the brand performs. Of course, the brand must perform as it promises, but it's a lot more than that. It is about what does it really mean? It's not what the brand does, it is what customers do with what the brand does. That is the name of the game. So, brands enable customers to make those non verbal statements about themselves. Okay, so I care about the environment, therefore, I use a body shop. I'm a world citizen, therefore, I travel by British Airways and wear United Colors of Benetton. We also need to understand when we are looking at an identity brand, we also need to look at the values that consumers are trying to achieve. Remember those values, the pyramid, but also terminal values and instrumental values. Instrumental values lead to terminal values. Terminal values are the way you want to live your life. I want to be honest so that I can have inner harmony in future, right? So values are belief cognitive structures that are closely linked to affect, and values are incited, they become imbued with feeling. They pertain to desirable goals or end states such as social equality and fairness. Based on our value, we act the way we act the way we do. The goals that we want to achieve, we act the way we do. We work towards those goals and towards achievement of those values. So if you are looking at power, achievement that David Beckham had is a great example of that achievement. We're using David Beckham to symbolize achievement, attainment of achievement. So in meaning-based branding, we're not just saying, "Oh, look, we're such a great brand that is streetwear." It is also about what values are consumers attaining. Is it social status and prestige that Supreme is alluding to, or is it achievement that Supreme is alluding to? What do you think? What value is Supreme helping consumers attain? Definitely, I can tell you it is between openness to change and self enhancement. It is definitely not alluding to self transcendence or conservation. Yeah, it is achievement. It is okay, yes, it could be achievement if you see your favorite celebrity wearing Supreme, like Lady Gaga, that they've had a collaboration with, and you think, oh, yes, I need to wear Supreme because Lady Gaga loves Supreme. I love her, and therefore, A leads to C. So yes, it could be achievement, but if you are around those people where you think, for me to have that certain social status or belong to that group of people, I need to be wearing Supreme, then it might be about power. A lot of jewelry companies allude to that power when they're advertising and communicating to their consumers. Yeah, I agree. So, of course, you need to think about the fact that not there could be two sets of consumers, target market segments, right? Specifically. And they might value different values in your brand. So, power and achievement are something that you can easily showcase in your brand because they are congruent to each other as opposed to power and universalism, right? So that is very different. Remember, things that are next to each other, like openness to change and self enhancement, are more congruent in nature than the values that are opposite each other. So you could go with power and achievement, of course. So, what is a brand then? A brand is a repository of meaning for consumers to use in their own lives. And who makes those meanings? Am I making that meaning? Of course, consumers are making those meaning. But are they just coming up with those meanings randomly? Of course not. The firm supports that. The firm creates meaning, tries to establish its meaning, therefore consumers make meaning. But are your meanings are only influenced by you and the firm? No, they're not. They are influenced by influencers. What are they saying about meanings? Lady Gaga, what is she saying about Supreme? So, meanings are established by the firm, the popular culture, influencers, and customers. Brand culture are shared, taken for granted brand stories and associations. For example, if you see these two Coca Cola can, even the one that says Orange Coke, you would be able to associate that back with Coca Cola. Because, in general terms, no one says, I'm going to go get a Coca Cola. They say, I'm going to go get a Coke. So, consumers, of course, create meaning. So, it must be Coke's new variety. It must be Coke with a new flavor or a new packaging. Then they make further meaning about it that, okay, if it's Red Bull, what does it really mean? Consuming Red Bull is associated with unappetizing color, there's a sticky mouth and feel and taste, unjustifiable price, but it is associated with physical endurance, concentration and reaction, speed, vigilance, and metabolism irrelevant. Irrelevant would should be on the next sentence. Irrelevant is why is it illegal? Is it taurine made from bull's testicle for real? What are the street names? There is a black market for the banned products. It's a mixer of choice for snowboarders. The one on the top are some of them are what you call a functional based meaning, primary meaning. The ones below are sort of implicit that we would like to change because they are negative in nature, they are unfavorable. So, what Red Bull does is they have on their website resources because firm has to create meaning as well. Firm also has to communicate the meaning, the correct meaning, the more favorable meaning that this is what we are associated with. So they have their own extreme sports events that all allude to that adrenaline rush, experiential feelings, um, skydiving, having the F1, this car race, all of those on their website to show what Red Bull can really lead to, and that would be physical endurance, concentration, reaction speed, vigilance, and your metabolism. Similarly, your Harley Davidson would say it is like a pass to the ride of your life. It is that cool. It is that good, and you must take it. So the firm has to create meaning as well, apart from what customers are creating it. Then comes the influencer. Hugh Jackman shows Jimmy how to really eat a Vegemite. Hugh Jackman is Australian. If he's showing it, then it must be the correct way to really eat Vegemite. Because he's got the authority as a source who is loved, admired, respected by people. People wanna be like him. So Hugh Jackman showing creates that credibility about the meaning that is being created, increases the authority of the meaning that is being created. Then comes our most important meaning maker, and that is culture. So, depending on how your nation or the culture is developing, there might be some waves of people, like, for example, a wave of everyone starting to become entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurship is being encouraged in Vietnam or in Australia, right? So, based on that, there might be some advantages that the organizations can take from the culture and support those entrepreneurs. That, yes, we understand you, we understand the pain that you are going through. So, Easy Rider is one of those cultural moments in the American history. It's a movie that Harley Davidson was able to connect themselves with. Any questions here? Does that all make sense, guys? If you can give me all a thumbs up. If you don't understand it, I can obviously go through it again. Because what we are now going to be talking about is that when we are looking at culture, we are talking about iconic status. We are saying iconic brands are the brands that have become cultural icon. John Wayne, JFK. I'm sure you can find those iconic people, iconic personalities in Vietnam as well, and iconic brands as we've discussed, Betis and Vina Milk as well. So iconic brands are authentic. They are culturally, historically specific. They convey meaning that is very unique in nature. Steve Jobs is a cultural icon because of how he was able to democratize knowledge and create these computers, right? Um, Oprah for her talk show and for the kind of conversations that were enriching in nature that she used to have. Elvis as a musician and the way he produced and performed both. It was iconic in nature. No one had done that before, right? It was just them, it was unique to them. And that is what iconic brands are. Just do it, Nike. Nike, that true athleticism is associated with just Nike, not anyone else at the same level. Adidas is sort of there. They're a strong competitor, but not, they don't have the same iconic status as Nike has had. We'll discuss Budweiser quite in detail for you to understand how Budweiser was able to achieve that iconic status. So, cultural icons like people, companies, universities, places, they're regarded as a symbol, especially of a cultural or movement. A person, an institution, when you say this place is an institution, it means something. It is iconic, and that is why it is an institution and so forth are considered worthy of admiration and respect. But they also have some other meaning. I'll come to like Simpsons and Mickey Mouse, but this Simpsons and Mickey Mouse and the Sydney Opera House, they're compelling symbols. They are quintessential. Every child here, in every person here, in our childhood, we knew about Mickey Mouse. Quintessential, conveyed meaning. It was the source, the original, the distinctive, and the unique. So, cultural icon come to represent a particular kind of story for people that is unique to them. And that is what iconic brands also embody. They are quintessential, they convey meaning, they are the source, and they're distinctive in nature. They represent a story like Dove does, celebrating true beauty. And I'll show you how it came about that as well. Supreme with Lady Gaga, Louis Vuitton with Rihanna. They try to create this meaning of exclusivity, sophistication, elegance. Um, it tries to establish those meaning as well. But I think at this stage, before we go ahead and discuss anything further, let's take a quick break for 5 minutes. It might be a bit too much. And then we look at metaphors and myth markets. Okay? 5 minutes. If you have any question, pop that in the chat section and we will discuss them. Please be back in 5. Alrighty, hopefully everyone's back after that break. So, what we were discussing before is how firms can help establish a meaning as well for consumers. When we're looking at UCB, I hope you remember those examples of those world leaders kissing each other of or the unemployment campaign, right? So for UCB, the way they did establish cultural identity for themselves was by launch of this magazine called Colors. Now this magazine was more focused on social issues as opposed to their products. So it showcased the values that consumers could attain by consuming and supporting United Colors of Benetton. So it was things like migration, race, unemployment, peace, war. Those were the kind of social issues that were considered or were included in these different issues of Colors magazine. So it's a really, really good example of how when it was not that normal for organizations to establish a cultural identity, how good and how well UCB was able to do that. It did ultimately obviously become controversial too because if you are too far away from your product, it can impact your sales and push you away from what your primary meaning was, too much towards implicit meaning to create a disconnect. So UCB, however, in their own right, did a really good job at establishing that cultural identity by talking about these social issues. So this is where what we call movement of cultural meaning. That from this culturally constituted world, we are borrowing meaning, we are taking meaning, embedding them in our consumer goods and exchanging it with consumers through either a possess this ritual, exchange it through grooming ritual, or a divestment ritual. Your culturally constituted world, the world that we have created and we live in, is the source of meaning from which those meanings are transferred to consumer goods and then to individual consumers. So, how do we then communicate these meanings? Because using Rihanna is a great example of showcasing some of that meaning, or having that magazine is also really, really good method. But is there anything else we could do? We could. We could use metaphors. So, cultural models are relatively stable cognitive networks that are to some degree shared by a social group with similar experiences, whereas meanings are thoughts, feelings, and less conscious association evoked when people's schema meets the world at a given time. So, meanings are evoked, and that is why the firm has to establish those meanings. So, metaphors can be used as those shared cultural models. They can operate as those core schemas that people use to make sense of their experience. It's easy to also explain some of the more abstract concepts using metaphors like balance, transformation, journey, container, connection, resource, and control. So, looking at some of the example, a deep metaphor is basically a frame through which you understand the world, an interpretation pattern of sensing and representing external realities. It's like biting into the Intel ice cream to see what's really inside. You're really not biting into the chip, but what it is alluding to, the ice cream, is a metaphor to say you gotta use the Intel chip to be able to really know what makes it special, like biting into it, using it. So, frame determines what information does and does not capture consumers' further attention and how that information is processed and how we respond to it. That getting a Rolex is not just having the time, it's having the timeless. It's about saving times, investing time, understanding that time is money and therefore we shouldn't be just spending it, we should be having the timeless. Again, frames determine the information that consumer that frames determine what information does and does not capture consumers further attention and how some of that information is processed and how consumers respond to that information. So if I wanted to show balance, I'll come to this image, right? If I wanted to show balance, how am I going to show it? Let's see what Kellogg's did.
Kellogg's Just Right tastes like no other cereal. A wholesome combination of whole wheat flakes, puffed rye, juicy sultanas, oats, and the goodness of bran. That's the secret to Just Right's unique taste. It's not too heavy, not too light. In fact, it tastes just right.
This was very easy, okay? Such a simple ad, but was able to communicate the meaning absolutely fine. So we can use those kind of metaphors as well. Who's stopping us, right? Because if you want to show how a sleeping pill can transform your sleep, how am I supposed to show it? We're going to use a metaphor. And that is what Lunesta did as well. Let's look at Lunesta.
Racing thoughts keep you awake. Sleep is here on the wings of Lunesta. And if you wake up often in the middle of the night, rest is here on the wings of Lunesta. Lunesta helps you fall asleep and stay asleep so you can wake up feeling rested.
When taking Lunesta, don't drive or operate machinery until you feel fully awake. Walking, eating, driving, or engaging in other activities while asleep without remembering it the next day have been reported. Abnormal behaviors may include aggressiveness, agitation, hallucinations, or confusion. In depressed patients, worsening of depression, including risk of suicide, may occur. Alcohol may increase these risks. Allergic reactions such as tongue or throat swelling occur rarely and may be fatal. Side effects may include unpleasant taste, headache, dizziness, and morning drowsiness.
Ask your doctor if Lunesta is right for you. Get Lunesta for a $0 copay at Lunesta.
Use the butterfly as a metaphor to show how it can transform your sleep, how this product can transform, and that is how it created meaning. So you could use humor appeal, that it was used in this Kellogg's ad, that you make customers laugh by using that particular metaphor. You could use a particular character, or you can use a particular animal, and we'll see how animals can be really good examples and metaphors to display, convey meaning. Of course, you could use your magazines. You could use celebrities like Rihanna to depict meaning, create more cultural resonance. You could also just use an example or a piece of life kind of an example. And that is what Intel Inside did.
This is Jack. He's learning about airplanes on a PC with an Intel Pentium processor inside. The Pentium processor has the power to make software look, sound, and feel more real, which lets Jack's imagination really take off. The Intel Pentium processor.
And that brand element of Intel processor of ting, 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 ting is so
Want to run all your software fast?
strongly embedded in
Then
my
look
mind that
for
if I ever hear it, I always know it is Intel. But what it was showing is that it is what it is inside. This example is a container of what you could achieve and how your softwares would work, how realistic they would look like. Like Jack felt like he was on the runway. He was driving the airplane when it was just looking at an image or a video, right? Container for our favorite iconic, for my favorite iconic brand is not just because I love the product, it's because the way they do their marketing is excellent. Is a Coca-Cola, how using a brand can be like opening happiness. It is a container to feeling something, and that container to feeling something is happiness.
Favorite fresh fruit to your door with a $0 delivery fee to select areas on Woolies orders over $250.
Well, hello, is this thing on? Is anybody listening? A brand new day has begun. The first thing that I want to do, make sure that you feel it too. So I'm not the only one. Come on, let me up, it's a brand new day. Open up a little happiness today. So I can be someone, so I can be someone living up to a better way. Open up a smile on another face. So I can feel something new. Some happiness. Some happiness.
What can I go back? So that is what how Coca-Cola was able to. Of course, they have so many more campaigns that use metaphors to explain how Coca-Cola is associated with happiness. But this one's particularly was such a good example of container for opening happiness. Then we've got very, very iconic. I'm going to come back to this WhatsApp ad as well because it is so culturally significant for Budweiser. But this essentially, let's see the ad, and then you will be able to see what it means when we say connection.
On the play. You know, the best part of this defense is their defensive linemen, their interior
Hello?
linebackers.
Hey, who? What's up? Nothing, B. Just watching the game, having a bud. What's up with you? Nothing. Watching the game, having a bud. True. True. What's up? What's up? Yo, who's that? Yo, pick up the phone. Hello? What's that? What's up? Yo, where's Dookie? Yo, Dookie. Yo. What's up? What's that? Hold on. Hello? So what's up, B?
So what this WhatsApp ad essentially is showing is a connection between this group of males who find comfort in brotherhood and camaraderie. And why this is such an important ad is because during this time, there was a lot of political economic upheaval in America and how people were not getting the right opportunities. It was really to each for his own, and it was really like what we typically call a rat race. So Budweiser said, it's okay, we understand how you feel, and we understand that the true comfort is in the comfort with your group of friends. So much so that girlfriends couldn't WhatsApp, professional couldn't WhatsApp. It was only these male friend, especially alluding to the African American community that quite suffered during this political economic upheaval as well, that only they could was up. Only they could find respite in that brotherhood and that camaraderie amongst them. And obviously Budweiser is placed quite, it's a key in that camaraderie and in that brotherhood. Then we've got resource. If we want to establish us ourselves as a resource that is key and integral to people's life, how can a bank do that? Banks are boring. How is a bank going to create that meaning in
If you ever
consumer?
needed
So we will see how it was able to do that quite well.
If you ever needed proof that time is money, witness Sam here. He takes 139 seconds to pay the lawn guy, which makes him precisely 5 seconds late for the train. That makes him 23 minutes late for the show, which leads to 2 minutes of futile grovelling. 58 seconds of acute embarrassment follows, then an intolerable hour and 37 minutes of cold shoulder. Oh dear. And the upshot of all this? 60, no, make that $160, just about making up for it. Has he? He has. Time really is money. To keep both running smoothly, switch to ANZ today. If you ever need...
So again, it's saying just like that Rolex, that time really is money. So get yourself a Rolex and stop spending your time and your money. Similarly, if you don't want to be in a situation like Sam, bank with ANZ, because he would never then be late for your date. And that is what 2 minutes early, 23 minutes late is. But Nike says with our brand, you will be able to get that control that you need. The possibilities are endless. And how did it do that? Let's see how it was able to create those limitless possibilities associations.
Listen, if you can run a mile, run a race. You know what?
Can you all hear me? Hello? Yes? Okay. Then why is the video not working?
Run a marathon.
Okay, I felt like the laptop actually, I think, got hung for a sec. Let me play that again for you.
Listen, if you can run a mile, run a race. You know what? Run a marathon. Outrun a movie star. If you can ride a bike, ride that thing. Ride a bull. Ride a tougher bull. Let's watch this. What kind of bull is that? If you can move your hips, if you can dance, move your legs, move your feet, move the ball. Is that PK? Score the goal. Yeah, that is PK. You like to fight? Well, pick on someone your own size. Pick on someone twice your size. Pick on him. That's not good. Oh, lesson learned. If you can play table tennis, serve like that. Beat the champ. Beat her mentor. Come on, you got this.
Quiet, please.
Beat Serena.
Thank you.
If you can beat your friend one-on-one, beat him. Steal it. Take it. Sorry, girls. Now, take your talents to the streets. Beat the street court legend. That's good. Beat that guy. Hold on. We've been waiting for this. That was nice. Good luck with that.
What an excellent act to show how anyone, just anyone, could do whatever they wanted to do. and how they were able to establish that meaning by not just showing you that the possibilities are endless, but also by having those athletes that are at the top of their game. That if you want really to excel, beat Serena Williams, step by step, of course, that is what they've shown in the video as well. So it's a beautifully done video to show how you can get that control if you wear, as you can imagine, the Nike shoes. Then we've got journey, how we can create associations with journey, that we're part of your life's journey. Okay, so we'll see this ad, and then you guys tell me what the metaphor is there. Okay, but this is an ad.
Come on, Maddie.
When was this building built?
It's old, but it has big windows and lots of light. I don't understand. Did I do something wrong? Are you breaking up with me?
Slow and steady.
Trans, the official sudden vantage spectacles. This is Maddie.
All right, guys, so what is the metaphor here? What metaphor did the brand use to embed themselves in their customers' journey? This should be an easy one. What metaphor was used in this advertisement? If you take even a wild guess, I can assure you, you're going to get this right. It was the dog. The dog was the metaphor for Chevy, Chevrolet, the car, and it shows how a dog is there for you throughout your life, through ups and downs. Chevrolet is going to be there for you throughout your life, through all the ups and downs. Like a loyal dog, we're going to be there. Like your loyal pet, we're going to be there. That is what the metaphor was here, right? Do you all get the metaphor's ideology? Uh, Let me look at the chat. No, yes, of course, that the dog is your friend, but also your partner. It's just always there for you, accompanying in your journey in life. So, Chevy is your friend, your partner, your companion, essentially, in this journey of life. That is what the metaphor there was. So, essentially, the idea of showing all of those advertisements was how we can establish meaning by borrowing from the culture, from those culture that your customers, from the culturally constituted world your customers are living in. And within this customers culturally constituted world, it's not always smooth sailing. There are contradictions, there are desires, there are anxieties, especially when the national ideology doesn't represent the true living reality of some communities, specifically speaking, the populist world. So, when there are those kind of anxieties, when there are those gaps between what should be and what is, it gives birth to the myth market. For example, if, and this is borrowing from the American culture because those are the ones that we are going to be looking at today, but if you look at the American market during the 1960s and 1970s, it was all about let's make America great, about manufacturing and about working in the corporate America, in the white collar jobs. However, there was this community of people, of men specifically, who did not associate with that. They did not resonate with that worldview. For them, it was all about manliness and individuality and ruggedness. And when there was that contradiction, it gave rise to the myth market. And organizations like Mountain Dew, brands like Mountain Dew, they identified that, oh, there are anxieties around this national ideology of corporate America versus manliness, ruggedness, individualism. We don't really care about these polished white collar jobs. So Mountain Dew used the populist world as a source material to create the relationship with that community, with those community, by having an advertisement where there was this man who was very rough and tough from the Appalachian mountains in America, and he's essentially saved a girl in the advertisement, and then after chugging a bottle of Mountain Dew, right, and the girl was all impressed by how cool he was and how rugged but rustic he was. Okay, so this is what we call myth market. Myth is a traditional story about the guy in the Mountain Dew advertisement who's a hero, or supernatural beings like the Hulk, often attempting to explain the origins of natural phenomena or aspects of human behavior. That if this bandit is so flexible that a Hulk can wrap it around it, you surely could. Right? So it uses heroes or supernatural beings, often attempting to explain the origins of natural phenomena or aspects of human behavior. So the structure of myth market looks at that national ideology, a system of idea that forges links between everyday life, aspiration of individual families, communities, and those of the nation, like scientific bureaucracy, as I was talking about in for the Mountain Dew advertisement, the Wall Street frontiers. When we look at this Buds for You advertisement, you'll be able to connect that, and the free agent frontiers, that we're gonna find respite in brotherhood and camaraderie, alluding to the um, Budweiser What's Up ad. So, national ideology is the most powerful root of consumers' demand for myths because it creates anxieties through which ideology is conveyed. Hillybilly myth, Hillybilly is the guy in the Mountain Dew. Redneck myth is all about people just doing their blue collar jobs and finding respite in that. And slacker myth is like, we just don't care anymore. It's better to not be the part of rat race and watch everything from the sidelines, and because we can't win that rat race, it's best not to enter it and just watch from afar and then find comfort in that. And that is what your slacker myth was. So national ideology doesn't match with the populist world, creates a cultural contradiction. Cultural contradiction gives rise to the myth market. Cultural contradiction is defined as the tension between prevailing ideologies, models of living what you should be like, and individual experience of what you really are, who you really are, and what reality is. The conformity of that white collar job is erasing ruggedness and individualism. Yuppies that, oh yes, boss, I'm gonna do it. Yes, 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 that's okay. Yes, I'm gonna work really, really hard to get to the top. Yuppies aren't heroes. Manhood via work is a joke. Like, there's even no point to enter it because you can't win in it. So the tension produces intense desires and anxieties, fueling demand for symbolic resolutions, and brands like Budweiser, like Coca Cola, like Mountain Dew, they, or Volkswagen, they become those cultural engine or the symbolic salves for those desires and anxieties. So, contradiction in the national ideology creates myth markets where your brands become the solution for those anxieties, and desire. And Dove is an excellent example of that because, and this is not a 1990s example, this is an example from when I was in my undergraduate degree. So, what you should be like, women are told to be this like perfect shape, they should look this certain way, they should behave in a certain manner. But what their lived experiences were very different. And that gave birth to tensions and anxieties. Dove figures says real women are all different kinds, shapes, form. The principle behind the Dove campaign for real beauty was to celebrate that physical variation. Not everyone has to have an hourglass figure. Not everyone should be size zero. It is to celebrate the natural physical variation embodied by all women and inspire them to have the confidence to be comfortable with themselves. And how did they communicate that? And I say that because of this ad, it's not that I became a customer of Dove, but in my eyes, when I came across this advertisement in my undergraduate degree, I really respected the brand. And I thought, good on them for identifying these anxieties and good on them for actually giving a stage to how women really struggle and what they really struggle with. So I'll show you the advertisement now and you'll understand the celebration of natural physical variation.
I'm a forensic artist. Worked for the San Jose Police Department from 1995 to 2011.
I showed up to a place I'd never been, and there was a guy with a drafting board.
We couldn't see them, they couldn't see us.
Tell me about your hair.
I didn't know what he was doing, but then I could tell after several questions that he was drawing me.
Tell me about your chin.
It kind of protrudes a little bit, especially when I smile.
Your jaw.
My mom told me I had a big jaw.
What would be your most prominent feature?
Kind of have a fat, rounder face.
The older I've gotten, the more freckles I've gotten.
I would say I have a pretty big forehead.
Once I get a sketch, I say thank you very much, and then they leave. I don't see them.
All I had been told before the sketch was to get friendly with this other woman, Chloe.
Today I'm gonna ask you some questions about a person you met earlier, and I'm gonna ask you some general questions about their face.
She was thin, so you could see her cheekbones. And her chin, it was a nice, thin chin.
She had nice eyes. They lit up when she spoke.
Cute nose.
She had blue eyes, very nice blue eyes.
So here we are. This is the sketch that you helped me create, and that's a sketch that somebody described of you.
So yeah, that's...
She looks closed off and fatter. Sadder, too. The second one looks more open, friendly, and happy.
I should be more grateful of my natural beauty. It impacts the choices and friends that we make, the jobs we apply for, how we treat our children. It impacts everything. It couldn't be more critical to your happiness.
Do you think you're more beautiful than you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
We spend a lot of time as women analyzing and trying to fix the things that aren't quite right. And we should spend more time appreciating the things that we do like.
I agree with Fam. It is an iconic campaign because I haven't, before this until now, I don't think I have seen a campaign that celebrates real beauty. Real beauty as in what it is, not what your desires to be. This is what it is, and you should be comfortable in your own skin as well as this campaign. Like the sketches are such a good way of showcasing that cultural contradiction What you want to be, what it is, and what you are is actually more beautiful than what you want to be, you know? It's an excellent campaign, but also shows how the brand has really evolved from that primary meaning to implicit brand meaning. Back in the days, they wanted to emphasize on how their soap bar has moisturizing cream in it. That is what they first established the meaning. This is a moisturizing soap. Now it has come to implicit brand meaning, where they are looking at myth markets, where they are looking at cultural contradictions, and they're getting that collective resonance through culture share, as opposed to just attributes, as opposed to just primary brand meaning. And they've continued to champion that. Of course, it is their USP, and no other brand, if it is such a good strong USP, no other brand tries to even copy it per se. So they've continued to champion it, like gray and gorgeous, withered and wonderful, flawed or flawless, celebrate all types of beauty. Why do we search the universe for only one type of beauty? So really good example. But there's also Chipotle. Chipotle understood the contextual reality of consumers, especially in their scarecrow animation that I will show you, and then establish them by identifying that cultural contradiction and as a symbolic salve to those anxieties and desires. That we, if you support us, if you buy chicken from us, if you buy products from us, you are supporting that symbol, you are using that symbolic salve. We are your symbolic salve. So the objective was that few knew that Chipotle has radically changed the fast food industry. They were sourcing more local produce, sustainably raised meat than anywhere else. Chipotle asked us to tell their story, that was the agency, to inspire people to care more about their food. The strategy that they used was back to the start, designed to engage customers in Chipotle's journey and invite them to join through the simple action of downloading the film's unique soundtrack. As you can imagine, it was The Scientist by Coldplay. The song is iconic, the band's iconic, the ad became iconic. Back then, the film was viewed over 6 million times on YouTube, which was huge, over 300 million impressions, and fans catapulted the Scientist song by Coldplay to country's #1 song on iTunes. So let me show you this Back to the Start campaign, and you'll realize the cultural contradiction, and then Chipotle as a symbolic salve.
I was just guessing at numbers and figures, pulling the puzzles apart. Questions of science, science and progress don't speak as loud as my heart. Nobody said it was easy. It's such a shame for us to part. Nobody said it was easy. No one ever said it would be so hard. I'm going back to the start.
So very clearly, it showed what the reality is and what reality should be. It was able to show that if you were troubled by this, if you got anxious by what the reality actually is, you gotta cultivate a better world, and you can do that by supporting Chipotle. Then they follow that up with this really good scarecrow animation. Um, some people got confused that do you not want us to buy chicken, but that is exactly not what you were saying. You'll be able to understand the meaning that they were able to take from this culturally constituted world, identify the contradiction, and again repeating became a symbolic self.
Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look and you'll see into your imagination. We'll begin with a spin, traveling in a world of my creation. What we'll see will defy explanation. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to, do it. Want to change the world? There's nothing to it. I know to compare with pure imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to be. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to, do it. Want to change the world? There's nothing to it.
So, hopefully, that helps you understand those concepts a lot better as to how you can find those cultural contradictions and become a solution to consumers' pain point in a very buyer persona term. So, identity myth is a simple story that revolves around those cultural contradiction. It is a prerequisite for an icon to become an icon. And for Budweiser, it was the artisan and slacker myth. For Mountain Dew, it was the hillbilly character, the redneck and slacker myths. All of this, again, like I said earlier, are based on those American political, cultural, social environment. Volkswagen was bohemian and indie. Microsoft, it was personal empowerment myths. So brands become iconic when they perform powerful identity myths. And it is not, the ads would tell you that it's not just a theoretical concept. Brands actually actively apply that, especially iconic brands. So customers use iconic brands as symbolic selves, and brand is a storied product. that has distinctive brand markers through which customers experience identity myths. So, populist world, just to go through it, it is defined as an autonomous place where people's actions are perceived by intrinsic values, not by money or power. It is not that I want to be earning the most money. It is I want to find comfort within the group of my friends. So, populist worlds supply the source materials that iconic brands draw on to create the myths. Just like this scarecrow, he was not motivated by money or power, he was motivated by more intrinsic values of ensuring there's harmony in the environment, that we are procuring sustainable um meat, we are using an ethical supply chain. So it was not just, money was made because all of that was done in the factory. It was not that though. So iconic brands draw on those populist world to create the myths and become those symbolic selves. Very quickly, I know we are a little bit short in time, but any questions up until now? Any questions at all? I would suggest that if you guys are more interested in reading how Budweiser was able to do this really well, you can read this book, How Brands Become Icons. You can probably find it from your library. It should be accessible from your library. And that explains the whole process of how Budweiser had to maintain that iconic status time and again, because cultural contradictions don't stay the same, right? They get solved, new cultural contradiction arises. They get solved, then there is shift in the political, social environment, in the economic environment, then new cultural contradictions arise. And as these cultural contradiction arises, brands have the opportunity to use the populist world as source, to use these cultural contradictions as source to become those symbolic selves. And if they fail to do that, to maintain that iconic status, they can lose that iconic status as well, and they might not become the preferred brand. Some of their market share would go to other competitors as well, as did with Budweiser when they were not able to reignite that iconic status. So for artisan myth, the ideology was Wall Street frontier. Everyone works in the Wall Street because so much of manufacturing was going abroad. The corporations had to ensure they were making the most money. People were sort of encouraged to work in the Wall Street environment as opposed to blue collar jobs. But they didn't get the jobs, they didn't get those salaries, they didn't get that work life balance. Essentially, their needs, their expectations from what work could do for them was not being met. So, a lot of people in America back then started working as artisans in blue collar jobs. They wanted to be manufacturing, but the labor market was moving towards services. Budweiser realized that people were not happy to be working in white collar jobs. They didn't want to work at the Wall Street. They wanted to be electricians and plumbers and be in those blue collar jobs. That is what they were skilled at. And they worked really hard at doing as well. They made sure they were best in their job. So Budweiser, they identified that gap and they said that that's fine. We understand that working men are skilled artisans and they are true manufacturing heroes, and that America needs you. We should celebrate you because American economy is dependent on these skilled artisans. They are going to revive the economy. So go ahead and do that, those jobs, do it really well. And this Buds for You campaign was a celebration of those blue collar jobs. Very quickly,
For the pride, for the dream, for the love, and for the team, for the will that comes from the heart, for the skill that sets you apart, for the sweat and for the drive, for the
taste of Beechwood aged Budweiser.
So that's how Budweiser was able to celebrate those artisans, those skilled artisans. They continued with that myth. They continued ensuring that they were supporting them, but ultimately, slacker myth came through. There was another cultural disruption, and they were not able to ride that wave until they started featuring frogs in their Super Bowl campaigns, in their campaigns. And frogs were essentially used sort of like satire to show how people were struggling and they were not able to find the kind of jobs they wanted to, no matter what they did. So frogs worked as those satire for a while, and then they were replaced by lizards. Now, this lizards campaign was also a Super Bowl campaign, and it showed. I'll show you the advertisement of the campaign in a sec, but it basically showed those anxieties, but by lizards. That lizards thought, oh, frogs were getting all the opportunities, and no matter how hard they tried, they just couldn't get in. It was just so difficult. So, this lizard was sharing this with a friend, and the friend says, it's all right, let's just watch it from the sidelines. There's no point of getting into the rat race. Um, this was followed by multiple series of the lizards advertisement that during Super Bowl created this kind of phenomena. People loved it, people laughed at it, people felt understood. They thought, okay, there is empathy towards the kind of struggles we are facing at the moment. So once the lizards campaign was done, they continued riding that wave, but they needed something else. They needed to continue create that sort of relationship with the customers, because there was still a cultural contradiction that manhood via work is a joke. Why are we even trying anymore? So Budweiser myth was men can find intimacy and respect among close friends. There is no need for collective projects. Mountain Dew did this really well as well. If you guys are interested, you can research about this slacker myth in Mountain Dew. So they came up with the Lizards campaign, and they came up with the WhatsApp campaign. So we've already looked at the WhatsApp campaign. I'll show you the Lizards Super Bowl campaign very quickly. This is one snippet of it. This was followed by more clips that were showed during Super Bowl. Hang on, this is not the Budweiser. Sorry, this is not the Lizards commercial. Frogs one, which came before the lizards. That's the lizards, right? Oh, where's my lizards? Where are my lizards? Budweiser lizards. Yeah, that's it.
I can't believe they went with the frogs. Louis. Our audition was flawless. Louis. We did the look. Huh? We did the tongue thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was great.
Louis, frogs sell beer. That's it, man. Number one rule of marketing.
The Budweiser lizards. We could have been huge.
Hey, there'll be other auditions.
Oh, yeah, for what? This was Budweiser, buddy.
No.
This was big. Those frogs are gonna pay.
Let it go, Louis. Let it go.
Were you guys able to understand why this became the symbolic salve to that cultural contradiction? If you understood it, like for real, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, let me know, please. You understood how Budweiser took not advantage, I shouldn't use that word, that is wrong. How Budweiser understood those cultural contradictions and took the meaning from culturally concentrated world to become a solution. Were you able to understand that and how it created that iconic status? Yes, no. No? Is that a no or is that a yes, guys? I know we only have 15 minutes. I'll have to ask. No? Okay. So, Huang, what happened was during the slacker myth, this myth here. The national ideology was free agent. What that means is that Isha has to work as hard as she can to achieve the success she wants. There is to each for their own. But the true reality of the populist world was that no matter how hard they tried, no matter how hard they tried to win, they just couldn't even get into the rat race. It was very hard for them to even be part of that rat race because of those close knit communities that were already created. So Isha thought, what's the point of even trying and working so hard? Because I'm not going to win anyway. And so let me just find intimacy, let me just find comfort and respite with my group of friends. I just don't need collective projects. I don't need to work that hard. And Budweiser, when it realized that contradiction, that manhood via work is a joke, they said, okay, let's target this populist world. Let's target this community and show them that we understand those anxieties and desires. Give them a Budweiser in the hand as sort of a satire or a metaphor for it's okay to relax. You can find intimacy and respect among close friends. You can just be calling each other and saying, what's up, what's up, what's up. You don't need to be part of that corporate America rat race. We can find comfort in the brotherhood and camaraderie. We're not professionals that know multiple languages, that will work 9 to 5, that will make sure they are also playing other sports and they are doing these all these extracurricular things. We're not those professionals. We just want to slack. Does that make sense now? And based on that contradiction, they came up with that campaign. Does that make sense now, Huang? Okay, great. If it doesn't, again, I will explain it to you, but I also suggest you read this book because it has got all the information about those cultural and political. That's okay. It's got all the information about those specific information about those cultural and political upheaval, but it is what I have explained to you in the class. This is what it is. That if the world's moving towards entrepreneurship and everyone's just valuing entrepreneurship and you're like, no, hang on, I just want to just do my job, and you've become part of the populist world. Coca-Cola comes in and says it's okay, just go ahead and do your 9 to 5, we understand you, just you can find happiness in that. So Coca-Cola having with my group of people doing my 9 to 5, if it is shown in that advertisement, I feel like, all right, okay, someone understands me, the brand understands me. And so consuming Coca-Cola would then become my means of self-expression. So focusing on categories that customer value products as a means of self-expression, you need to target cultural contradictions. To be able to identify those cultural contradictions also, it's not easy. Like I said, you need sociologists, you need behavioral experts, you need marketers. It is difficult just for the marketers to be able to understand them. You need a group of people who really understand the social contextual reality of the customers. Making myths that lead culture through meaningful storytelling, and then, of course, undertaking cultural brand management always. Spread myths into popular culture. Followers are dependent on your myth making to express their identity. You have to remember that. And there must be empathy. You must not just shove your product down their throats, but you must be empathetic to their struggles. That is what you're trying to become a salve for, right? You need to solve their anxieties. So there has to be an empathy, a connect between myth making and identity that the followers are trying to create. So, whether it's in the form of music, books, movies, religion, gossip, or advertising, stories dominate the world we live in. They are our equipment for living, and a good story serves a metaphor. explaining how and why life changes from one condition to another. Stories are the narratives through which we make sense of ourselves and the world around us. It is the most powerful tool we have for engaging audiences, and if you have a good story, you must tell it. Just like Think Different, Future of Money, Nature's Way to Beautiful. I like to teach, I'll show you next week in the class. I don't know, we don't have time for this today, but I like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony by Coca Cola. I'll show it to you next week. And it will show you how Coca Cola acted as a symbolic salve back when America needed it. Okay? You must use multiple media platforms, though these some of these examples are from 1990s, but now you need to include multiple media platform to create that distinctive and valuable contribution. It takes time, though. It just doesn't happen. For PNG, they identify that no one was celebrating mums, and the hardest job in the world is to be a mum, to be a parent, but also to be a mom. And it takes someone strong to make someone strong. They identified that cultural contradictions, and supporting PNG then would become a symbolic salve to those anxieties and to those desires. And then they, of course, used it in their communication across trans media. And that's it for today, guys. Hopefully, all of that made sense. And you can understand now that we're not really just being the most powerful, the fastest Intel chip, or we're not the best car with the best mileage. We're not talking about those primary meanings anymore. We're talking about how a car can be a part of your life's journey. How a bank is not for you to just save money or have a checks account or use the ATM facility. It is about how that bank is a resource for you to live a peaceful life, because time is money. It is showing that Budweiser is not just a beer. It is a symbol of that camaraderie. It is a symbol of celebration of all kind of jobs, of all kind of skilled artisans. Coca-Cola is not just a soft drink. It is about togetherness. It is about happiness. It is not just a soft drink which is black in color, which got fizz in it. That's primary meaning. It's a lot more than that. And when a brand identifies these cultural contradictions from the populist world, they can use it as a source to become a, I have used this word so many times today, but a symbolic salve for those anxieties and desires. But they have to continuously do it. At the same time, be empathetic towards their audience. Uh, that's it, guys. Any questions at all? If there are no other questions, I will give you back your 8 minutes. Wow, I'm in dark now. That's better. I'll see you all next week. Thank you so much for joining in. And thank you, Lai. Thank you so much for joining in and have a good rest of your day. Thanks, everyone. Bye now. Oh, yes, thank you to you too. Happy Women's Day.